"Sir, you can't drink anymore. The doctor said your liver." "Get lost." I brushed off my secretary's hand and downed my third glass of whiskey. Sitting by the floor-to-ceiling window of my office, I gazed at the myriad lights of the city, yet felt as if I had fallen into an ice cellar. 3 months ago, Deep Space Technology, the company I founded, was maliciously acquired. During the board vote, my best brother Zach voted in favor, and my wife Iris didn't even show up. She was vacationing with Zach in the Maldives. Only after the acquisition was completed did I learn that the company's core technology had long been secretly patented by Zach. And every contract I had signed over the years had been backed by Iris's well-intentioned advice. "Leon, your wife is here." The secretary's voice trembled slightly. The door swung open, and Iris walked in wearing a white Chanel jacket, her makeup flawless, but there wasn't a trace of guilt in her eyes. She placed a document on the desk. "Leon, sign it. The divorce agreement. I've made sure you get everything you're entitled to." I stared at this woman, the one for whom I gave up the chance to study abroad, transferred a large portion of my company's shares to her name for her sense of security, and bought her brother a house and a car. And her sweet words in bed. They were all poison. "Aren't you afraid I'll sue you?" My voice was hoarse. Iris laughed. "Sue me? On what grounds? All the evidence points to you voluntarily giving it away. Leon, your biggest flaw is that you trust people too easily." The door was pushed open again. Zach walked in, wrapped his arm around Iris's waist, and planted a kiss on her cheek. Zach smiled hypocritically. "Sorry, Leon. That's just business. You're too emotional." I suddenly stood up, a sharp pain shooting through my liver. I clutched my abdomen as blood seeped from the corner of my mouth, end-stage cirrhosis. The doctor said I had at most a month left. "You look pretty pathetic like this." Iris took out her phone and snapped a photo. "I'll help you post an obituary. Oh, by the way, that little assistant of yours, Nina, quit yesterday. She cursed me out before she left. Birds of a feather flock together, I guess." Nina, my assistant, had been with me for 3 years, ever since my first day of starting the business. But I had never truly paid attention to her. My eyes were only on Iris. To me, Nina was just a tool, fetching tea and water, organizing files, ordering takeout, booking flights. She was the first to arrive at the office every day and the last to leave. When I worked late into the night, she stayed by my side at the desk next to mine. When my stomach ached, she would leave medicine on my desk, but I never took it because Iris said, "Don't just take those cheap meds." Once I had a high fever, and it was Nina who braved the rain to take me to the hospital. She stayed by my side in the emergency room all night and went straight to work the next day. That day, lying in the hospital bed, I called Iris. She said she was at the spa and didn't have time to visit me. Nina never complained. Not once. Until yesterday, when she resigned. "What did she say when she left?" I asked, my voice as weak as if it were drifting out from a grave. Iris rolled her eyes impatiently. "What did she say?" "She said, Leon deserves someone better." How ridiculous. You're about to die, and she's talking about someone better. I gripped the edge of the table as my consciousness began to fade. I heard Zach say, "Let's go. There's a celebration banquet tonight." The door closed. The world fell silent. I collapsed to the floor, the blood flowing more and more. My eyes were open, and the light on the ceiling turned into a blurry halo. Is this how I die? What have I really done in this life? In a daze, I saw my 20-year-old face, full of vigor and high spirits at my college graduation ceremony. If I could do it all over again. I closed my eyes. Leon. Leon. Hearing someone call my name, I snapped my eyes open. The glaring sunlight made me instinctively raise my hand to block it. Leon, are you all right? Did you stay up late again last night? A gentle female voice sounded. I sat up and realized I was lying on my desk, with a thick stack of business proposals in front of me. The calendar on the table read, April 15, 2023. I was stunned. 3 years ago. Deep Space Tech had just been founded for a month, and the company only had 5 people. Zach and I had just secured our first angel investment. Iris was still my girlfriend back then, not yet married. Leon. The female voice sounded again. I looked up and saw a delicate face, short black hair, no makeup, wearing a pair of round-rimmed glasses. It was Nina, my assistant. In my past life, Nina stayed with me for 3 years, working tirelessly without ever asking for anything. When she left, Iris mentioned it casually, and I didn't even get to say goodbye. Nina, I called her name. Here, Nina paused slightly. Would you like some coffee? I've made a latte. No, thanks. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside was the same city, but now it was 3 years ago, everything could still be made right. I pinched my arm. It hurt. It really hurt. Reborn. I've truly been reborn. Leon, you look a bit pale. Do you want to go to the hospital? Nina looked at me with concern. I turned around and studied this girl carefully. She was wearing a plain white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to her forearms, holding a steaming cup of coffee. Nina, how long have you been following me? I asked. On the day the company was registered last month. Don't you remember? Nina looked a bit nervous. I remember. I took the coffee and took a sip. It's very good. Make me a cup every morning from now on. Nina's eyes lit up, and the corners of her mouth lifted slightly. Okay. I sat back in my chair and opened the project proposal. In my past life, this project was taken over by Zach, who then plagiarized the core algorithm, ultimately causing Deep Space Tech to lose its biggest client. This time, I won't let the same thing happen again. I picked up the phone and dialed my lawyer's number. Hello, this is Leon. I'd like to commission you to draft several agreements, including equity adjustments, patent protection, and one more, a prenuptial property agreement. After hanging up, I leaned back in my chair and took a deep breath. Iris, Zach. This time, it's my turn. At 2 in the afternoon, Zach pushed open the door to my office. Leon, dinner together tonight? Iris said she booked your favorite Japanese restaurant. Zach walked in with a smile, holding a bottle of red wine. I looked at that face, and the last image from my past life flashed through my mind, Zach with his arm around Iris, saying, "You look pretty pitiful like this." Without even lifting my head, I said, "Not going. I have plans tonight." What could be more important than Iris? She's your girlfriend. Zach sat down on the sofa, crossing his legs. I put down my pen and looked at Zach. Precisely because she's my girlfriend, I can't always spoil her. Zach, how many years have we known each other? 7 years, college roommate. What's wrong? 7 years. I nodded. In these 7 years, I've helped you find a job, lent you money, and helped you chase girls. Have I ever done anything to wrong you? Zach's smile stiffened. Leon, why are you talking so strangely today? Did Iris throw another tantrum? I'm asking you, what do you think of Iris as a person? I asked bluntly. Zach's eyes flickered for a moment, then returned to normal. She's great, beautiful, capable, more than good enough for you. Really? I stood up and walked over to Zach. Then let me tell you, I saw the message she sent you last night. Zach's face changed drastically. What message? Leon, don't talk nonsense. I looked at him calmly. You know exactly which one I'm talking about. Zach, I don't care what happened between you two in the past. Starting today, I'm giving you 2 choices. First, sell me your 10% stake in Deep Space Technology, walk away, and I won't pursue this. Second, I'll audit every single transaction you've handled and then send you to prison. Zach shot up, his chair scraping loudly. Leon. Are you insane? I haven't done anything. You haven't. I walked over to the computer and opened a file. Last month, you secretly contacted a competitor and sold them our client list for $500,000. Do you want me to pull up the transfer records? In truth, I had no evidence, I was relying solely on my memory from a past life. But I was betting on Zach's guilt. Zach's face turned from white to red, and from red to purple. He clenched his fists and said through gritted teeth, "How do you know?" "Never mind how I know." I picked up the agreement that was already prepared on the table. "Sign it, take the money, and leave. If you don't, I'll call the police." Zach stared at the agreement for a full minute. Finally, he picked up the pen and signed his name. "Leon, you'll regret this." Zach threw the pen onto the table, grabbed his coat, and walked away without looking back. I watched his retreating figure, feeling no trace of pleasure, only an endless chill. This is only the beginning. At 7 in the evening, Iris called. "Leon, why didn't you come tonight? I booked your favorite restaurant. Do you have any idea I waited for you for 2 hours?" I placed my phone on the desk, turned on speaker, and continued reading the documents. "Iris, let's break up." There was 5 seconds of silence on the other end of the line. "What did you say?" Iris's voice rose an octave. "Leon, have you been drinking? Did you stay up all night at the office again?" I said, "I'm perfectly sober." "That men's jacket in your closet, it's Zach's, isn't it? Last month, when you said you were staying over at your best friend's place, you were actually with him. Do you want me to go on?" Rapid breathing came through the phone. Iris's voice turned icy. "Leon, you're investigating me. What gives you the right?" "Because I'm your boyfriend." I turned off the speakerphone and picked up the phone. "But not anymore. Iris, remember, from today on, we have nothing to do with each other." "Leon. How dare you? Do you believe I can ruin your reputation?" Iris was almost shouting. "You can try." I hung up the phone. I put down the phone and let out a long sigh. In my past life, it took me 3 years to see through these two people. This time, it only took me 1 day. The office door was gently knocked twice. "Come in." Nina poked her head in, holding a document in her hand. "Leon, here's the patent registration application you requested. I've organized it. Put it on the desk." I looked at her. "Nina, have you had dinner yet?" Nina paused for a moment. Not yet. I've been working on this document the whole time. Let's go, my treat." I stood up and grabbed my coat. "Huh?" Nina's eyes widened. "But, it's already past 7. Don't you need to go home and rest?" "How can I rest on an empty stomach?" I walked to the door. "The beef noodle place downstairs is pretty good. Want to go?" Nina's face flushed slightly. She lowered her head. "Okay." We walked out of the office building one after the other. The night breeze was slightly cool, and the neon lights flickered on the street. The noodle shop was very small, with only 4 tables. I ordered 2 bowls of the signature beef noodles, plus a serving of marinated eggs and greens. "Leon, you seem like a different person today," Nina said, eating her noodles in small bites, occasionally stealing a glance at me. "What's different?" I asked. "I can't really explain it." Nina lowered her head even more. "It's just, you seem more spirited. Before, you were always gloomy, as if something was weighing on your mind." I smiled. "That's because I used to be blind, and now I've been cured." Nina didn't understand, but seeing me smile, she smiled too. After dinner, I walked Nina to the subway station. "Leon, I can go back on my own, no need to trouble you." Nina waved her hand. "Nina." I called out to her. "Thank you," I said earnestly. "Thank you for always being here." Nina froze, her eyes slightly reddening. She opened her mouth, but in the end only said, "See you tomorrow." Then she turned around and ran into the subway station. I stood at the entrance, watching the direction she disappeared, and a feeling I had never experienced before surged in my heart, warmth and reassurance. Maybe, this is the person truly worth cherishing. Over the next month, I practically lived at the company. I reorganized Deep Space Technologies' business lines, cut off the loss-making projects from my previous life, and concentrated resources on developing a new AI data analysis platform. In my previous life, this product was conceived only after the company was taken away, but the idea was stolen by Zach. This time, I will be the first to act. Nina was the first to arrive at the office every day and the last to leave. She helped me organize documents, liaise with clients, brew coffee, and order takeout, spinning like a tireless top. "Nina, aren't you tired?" One day at 1 a.m, I looked up from my files and saw Nina asleep at the desk beside me, still holding a pen in her hand. I walked over and draped my jacket over her. Nina jolted awake. "Ah. I'm sorry, I fell asleep." I crouched down to meet her eyes. "Don't apologize. Go home and rest. I'll take care of the rest." "But. This is an order." Nina bit her lip, hesitated for a few seconds, then stood up and handed my coat back to me. "Leon, don't stay too late either. There's a board meeting tomorrow." She walked to the door, then turned back. "Leon, are you free this weekend?" "What's up?" I'd like to invite you to a movie. It's just, to thank you for taking care of me during this time." Nina's voice grew softer, until it was almost inaudible. I looked at her and smiled. "Sure. It's on me this weekend." Nina's face instantly turned red. She turned and ran out, nearly bumping into the doorframe. On the weekend, I wore a dark blue shirt and arrived at the cinema 10 minutes early. Nina arrived earlier than me, wearing a floral dress with her hair down and no longer sporting those round-framed glasses. I almost didn't recognize her. "Nina?" I called out tentatively. Nina turned around, her eyes curving into crescents. "Leon, you're here. You look very different today," I said. "Isn't it pretty?" Nina nervously smoothed her hair. I said very seriously, "It's pretty. Very pretty." Nina lowered her head, her ears red as if they were about to bleed. The movie was a romance with a cliché plot, but Nina was deeply engrossed. When the male and female leads parted ways, she secretly wiped away her tears. I handed her a tissue. "Here." Nina took it and whispered, "Thank you." After the movie ended, we walked along the street. The night was gentle, and the streetlights stretched our shadows long. "Leon, why did you break up with Iris?" Nina suddenly asked. I thought for a moment and said, "Because what she likes isn't me, it's money." "What kind of girl do you like, then?" Nina asked, immediately regretting it. "Sorry, I shouldn't have asked." I said, seriously. "Someone genuine. Someone who's good to me, not to my money." Nina fell silent. As I reached the subway entrance, I stopped and said, "Nina, there's a product launch next Saturday. Can you come?" "Of course I'll come. I'm your assistant," Nina said with a wink. "Not as an assistant." I looked into her eyes. "As my date." Nina was stunned. "Don't you want to?" I asked. No. Nina stammered, "I do want to, no, I mean, okay." After saying that, she ran off, only to come back a few steps later. "Leon, I'll be going now. Bye." Watching her flustered retreating figure, I smiled. This feeling, I've never had it in my past life. 3 days before the press conference, Iris suddenly appeared downstairs at the company. She was wearing a red dress, heavily made up, leaning against my car like a carefully laid trap. "Leon, let's talk." Iris blocked my way. "There's nothing to talk about." I walked around her and headed for the elevator. "I know about you and Zach." Iris followed me. "He sold his shares to you, didn't he?" "I also know he sold them for 500,000. Leon, don't you think that's cheap?" I stopped in my tracks and turned to look at her. "What exactly are you trying to say?" "What I'm trying to say is, I still have something on him." Iris took a step closer, looking up at me. "He didn't just sell the client list, he also embezzled an early investment from the company." 300,000. If I'm willing to testify, you can put him behind bars. And what's the condition? I asked. Iris smiled. Get back together. Leon, I know I made some mistakes before, but I really do like you. Give me a chance, and I'll treat you right. I looked at her and suddenly found it laughable. Iris, do you think I'm stupid? Iris's smile froze. I said word by word, you don't have any evidence in your hands. Even if you did, you wouldn't give it to me. Because you and Zach are in cahoots. You came to me only because Zach has lost his usefulness, and you want to switch sides. Iris's expression changed. I'm telling you, from today onward, deep space technology has nothing to do with you. I pressed the elevator button. And don't ever show up in front of me again. Otherwise, I'll make sure your brother, who embezzled public funds, ends up in prison with Zach. The elevator doors closed, and Iris stood outside, her face ashen. On the day of the launch event, the product was a huge success. I stood on stage, finishing the last slide of the presentation, and the audience erupted in applause. Investors came forward to exchange business cards, and reporters snapped photos non-stop. Nina was busy backstage, handing out water, organizing documents, and liaising with the media, with fine beads of sweat on her forehead. Nina, come here. I called her. Nina trotted over. Leon, what's wrong? I picked up a bouquet of white roses from the table, prepared in advance, and handed them to Nina. Thank you for your hard work. I appreciate it. Nina took the flowers, tears almost spilling from her eyes. The people around began to cheer. Leon, is this a confession? A colleague shouted with a laugh. I didn't deny it, just looked at Nina. Nina held the flowers, her face as red as an apple, and whispered, I also, thank you. That evening, after the celebration banquet ended, I drove Nina home. The car stopped at the entrance of her neighborhood, and neither of us got out. Leon, I want to ask you a question. Nina lowered her head, her fingers twisting the hem of her skirt. Ask. Is it because I work hard, or is there another reason? I turned sideways, looking at her profile. Nina, do you remember 3 months ago, when I was sick, who took me to the hospital? Nina thought for a moment. It was me, but you were unconscious at the time, so you probably don't remember. I remember, I said. I also remember that after that, you would leave a box of stomach medicine on my desk every day, until I said my stomach no longer hurt. I also remember that last winter, when I worked overtime until 3 in the morning, you made me a bowl of ginger soup and sat on the sofa waiting until you fell asleep. Nina's eyes turned red. I said softly, maybe I didn't understand before. But from now on, I don't want to miss it again. Nina finally couldn't hold it in anymore and tears fell. She threw herself into my arms and hugged me tightly. Leon, I like you too. I've liked you since the very first day. I held her close, my chin resting on the top of her head. So this is what it feels like when feelings are mutual. 3 months later, Deep Space Technologies' AI data analysis platform officially launched, with first-month revenue exceeding $5 million. I became the youngest unicorn company founder in the industry, with media interviews coming in one after another. As for Zach, he took that $500,000 and became a technical director at a small company, struggling to get by. Iris wasn't willing to give up. She contacted several tabloid media outlets and spread rumors that Leon was ungrateful and forced out his partner. A flood of defamatory articles appeared online, and Deep Space Technologies' stock price began to fluctuate. I didn't rush to clarify. I was waiting for the right moment. Until one day, Nina burst into the office holding a document. Leon, I found it. Found what? Zach's bank records showing the embezzlement of investment funds, along with his chat logs with Iris. Nina's hands were trembling with excitement. All the dirt Iris sent to the reporters was provided by Zach. They wanted to bring down Deep Space Technology and then buy it out at a low price. I took the documents and flipped through them page by page. Every page was clear, solid evidence. How did you find these? I looked up at Nina. Nina said, I have a college classmate working at a bank. I asked her to check Zach's accounts. As for the chat logs, I recovered them using technical means. Leon, I know this isn't legal, but I couldn't just stand by and watch them destroy you. I was silent for a few seconds, then I smiled. Nina, do you realize that what you've done is enough to put them away? I know. Nina's voice trembled slightly. But what? Nina looked at me. But I don't want you to get into trouble because of me using illegal methods. Leon, if you think it's not right, we can find another way. I stood up, walked over to her, and took her hand. I said, Nina, you know what? If I didn't have you, I might have ended up in a terrible state. Having you in this life, I'm not afraid of anything. 3 days later, I held a press conference. The room was packed with journalists, and Iris and Zach were also there. They thought I was going to apologize. I stood on the stage, first thanking all the clients and employees, then I shifted the tone. I turned on the projector. Recently, there have been some rumors online about me and deep space technology. The source of these rumors is two people, my ex-girlfriend Iris and my former partner Zach. The audience buzzed. On the screen appeared bank transaction records and screenshots of chat logs. The evidence of Zach embezzling company funds and Iris colluding with the media to spread rumors was crystal clear. I said calmly, I have submitted all the evidence to the police and entrusted a lawyer to formally file a lawsuit. The biggest mistake I've made in my life was trusting people I shouldn't have. But from today onward, I will cherish twice as much those who truly deserve to be cherished. I looked toward the front row, where Nina sat, her eyes brimming with tears. Nina, thank you, I said. Thank you for staying by my side when everyone else left. The entire room erupted in applause. Iris and Zach turned pale and quietly slipped out through the back door. That same night, the police arrested Zach. Iris was taken into criminal custody for spreading rumors and defamation. That evening, Nina and I sat on the company rooftop. The night sky was clear, and we could see the stars. Leon, when did you start liking me? Nina leaned on my shoulder and asked softly. I said, probably, the first time you made me coffee. That cup of coffee was really good. Liar. Nina laughed. You didn't even remember my name back then. But I remembered the taste of that coffee. I looked down at her. Nina, marry me. Nina sat up straight abruptly, her eyes wide. What did you say? I said, marry me. I pulled a small box from my pocket and opened it to reveal a diamond ring. You don't have to answer right away. You can take 3 days to think about it. Nina looked at the ring, and finally, tears fell from her eyes. No need to think. She extended her hand. I do. I slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into my arms. In this life, I will never let go again. A year later, Nina and I got married. The wedding was small, with only close friends, family, and company employees invited. There was no extravagance, no pretense, only genuine laughter and blessings. Married life was simple and happy. Nina quit her job as an assistant and opened a small flower shop. Every morning, she would get up early to brew coffee for me, then head to the flower shop to tend to business. My company grew bigger and bigger, but I always made sure to leave work on time to have dinner with Nina. Iris was sentenced to 6 months and left the city after being released. Zach was sentenced to 3 years for embezzlement and wrote a letter of repentance in prison, which I never opened. 5 years later, Nina and I had 2 children, a boy and a girl. On the day deep space technology went public, I stood on the exchange platform, with Nina by my side. I said, the person I am most grateful for is my wife. She made me realize that the most precious thing in life is not money or power, but the person who is willing to stay with you when you have nothing. Applause erupted from the audience. Nina gripped my hand tightly, tears streaming down her face. That night, I wrote a sentence in my diary, in my past life, I was a fool for a lifetime, in this life, I used one chance to gain a lifetime of clarity. A two-way journey is the best kind of love. And the best rebirth is learning to cherish the right person. Outside the window, the lights of 1,000 homes glowed. Beside me, my beloved slept peacefully. I closed my diary and smiled. This time, I have finally lived right.